Thank you so much, Gauri Trust and Kavita, Deepu, Lisa, and all of you here for being here and for inviting me and having me to speak. I knew Gauri but little, not as well as perhaps many of you here. I have this distinct memory still of her laugh when she spoke to me about the kind of threats that many writers in Karnataka were facing after the killing of Professor Kalburgi. And at that time she said that there's a list of writers who are being threatened, and she said that she was fourth on the list. But she said with a laugh, and I never forget that, I can never get it out of my head, that she was the first woman on the list. And I remember talking to her and saying, you should be careful, you need to be careful, what do you need to do to protect yourself? And she just laughed. She just refused to even think it was important. So, many of us have remembered conversations and relived so many of the discussions we've had with Gauri, and I'm trying to think of what she would have made of today's very, very important discussion, which is on reconstructing the fourth estate. She tried to do a lot of that in her own work and through the Lakesh Patrike. I think she did really go beyond what one would conventionally call journalism and what one would conventionally look at as the media, because she extended the boundaries that were drawn perhaps by other people or by very flawed or debatable understanding of how the media should be and what the media should be as a spectator, not as a participant in society. And I think she definitely tried and extended those boundaries to the best of her abilities and paid for it with her life. Today we also need to look at the question of impunity when it comes to the killing not just of Gauri Lankesh but of many others who have been killed, have faced violent ends because they have had the courage to speak out, because they've had the courage to dissent. And this is a growing number. And every year we go through this exercise really of documenting the number of people who have been speaking out, who have been dissenting and who have paid for it either with their lives or who have been charged, who have been arrested, who are still in jail. We have about 15 journalists who are charged under the UAPA in India as we speak. We have about 7 of them still behind bars. We have a very moving account really in the wire from Umar Khalid just after Gauri was killed. And today we know that there is absolutely no sign of any kind of freedom for him, because hearings on his bail are continuously being delayed. On the 31st we are expecting the courts to again hear it and perhaps again postpone the hearing, a decision on whether he should be set free, at least for on bail. And there are so many others who are still in jail, who are still unable to even face some modicum of freedom, leave alone justice. Leave alone justice for people who have been killed, leave alone justice for people who have been attacked, who have been charged wrongly, and who still languish in jail. So the battle really to protect and to fight for those who dissent and who dare to dissent is a very, very long and painful one. It is extremely isolating and very difficult sometimes for families who suffer this, because invariably the burden of fighting and struggling is really with the people who are closest to those who need to be fought for. So I think to a great extent what we discussed also in the last 2 days of deliberations was how to break the kind of silences and the kind of isolation really of people, journalists, especially journalists, because that was the major discussion for the last 2 days on how to keep fighting and how to keep managing to struggle and how to build those solidarities. That's a big issue, really. And it is something that we can all do when we continue to meet, we continue to have this kind of dialogue and discussion. Hartosh spoke fabulously, of course, about the challenges before the media and laid out the terrain very well, so I really don't want to go back into that. I don't need to. He has already spoken a bit about this, but I'd like to add a few things. And one of the things that occurred to me when you spoke about media and owners of media, one of the things that we tend to miss for some reason, I'm unable to understand, but we do tend to forget that the owners of media, the owners of big business today, are also in parliament. They are the people who also make the laws that are today the most oppressive and the most draconian of measures to regulate and control the media. We are facing this at such a major level. Mr. Nath, who's here, has documented and has listed out quite a few of this in the last issue of the Caravan, which you can read. There are ways in which the media is being regulated, from permissions to own media, permissions to start a media house. There are ways in which the media is regulated, whether it is not just big media, big legacy media, but also very small YouTubers or very small journalists who want to use the internet or who even want to start radio. It's impossible now. And with the new broadcast bill, which is still under consultation, and let us hope that they listen to the kind of submissions that have been made by various journalists, organizations and groups like ours. Whether they will listen is a big question mark. And the reason why they do not listen, and they will not, I suspect, will not even bother to listen, is because we have a dispensation today which has succeeded in making the media irrelevant, completely irrelevant. So we have fabulous journalism, we have investigative journalism, we have journalists who are laying their lives on the line to bring out the stories, to challenge those narratives, and to speak. But these are being silenced, not by killing, which is of course the ultimate censorship, not even by charging them or filing cases against them, but by simply disregarding them, by ignoring them completely, and not even having basic courtesy and respect of even responding to the kind of issues that are being raised. So we have excellent journalism, we have fabulous work from investigative journalists about corruption, about cases, about policies that have gone wrong completely, about environmental destruction that is completely destroying the country. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we have immense data of what is actually going wrong. But none of this is being given any kind of credence, because we have a government that is completely negating any of this kind of journalism or any of the information that is important. So it's not just about creating another narrative, it's also about completely invisibilizing whatever needs to come out and whatever people need to be informed. That is, I think, a huge challenge about how we make information that is important and relevant to people, again, make a difference and actually make an impact. We have, of course, people here who have been working and who have been really struggling to break this kind of silences. And I think we will have to continue to find ways and strategize and see how we can actually make that difference. I think the fact that all of us are here today and the fact that we had 2 days of very, very important discussions leading up to today's meeting, there is definitely hope and there's definitely resistance. There is a lot of resistance, there is a lot of efforts to push back. How we actually manage to do that, how we actually manage to get the few of us together to be able to push back and to be able to resist is going to make all the difference going forward. And we have really no second chance on this. I'll stop here and I hope we can continue have some kind of a dialogue on this because conversation is all that we can at least start with. Thank you so much.